So I invite all the panelists and moderator of the session to please come on the dais. Mr. Ajay Jaha, Mr. Vijay Nirani is on his way, so he is expected any moment. Mr. Nilay Ranjan, Mr. Anil Dixit, Vineet has not come yet, and Mr. Vaibhav Dange.
वेरी गुड मॉर्निंग टू ऑल ऑफ यू. कल के सुबह से लेकर शाम तक के लंबे चौड़े दिन की थकान लगता है हमारे अभी भी बहुत सारे डेलीगेट्स की पूरी हुई नहीं है. सो होपफुली वंस वी स्टार्ट द सेशन विल हैव आवर डेलीगेट्स ज्वाइनिंग. कुछ लोग शायद अभी भी चाय कॉफ़ी पीकर ज्वाइन कर रहे हैं. आई वुड रिक्वेस्ट श्री अजय झा and my other co-panelist. So very good morning to all of you. Let's begin our session because we are already 15 minutes late, but we don't want to delay further. I think let's respect the people who have reached on time. So valuing their time, we'll start our session. From yesterday, we have been discussing about how do green transport covering all aspect of transports, whether it is road transport, aviation, marine transport, railways, metro or local railways, suburban railways. So all sectors of transport we have been discussing from yesterday. How do we make sure that our entire mobility sector, transport sector, becomes more greener, cleaner? And yesterday in the morning, Honorable Minister spoke about broader vision. We had a very distinguished panel thereafter which discussed about various technology aspect, various policy issues on implementation of green mobility. We also deliberated broadly what would be the overall combination of our transport. How do EV, other biofuels, fuels like ethanol, fuels like CBG, sustainable aviation fuel, how do they will play a role, whether they are complementary to each other or is there any contradiction or healthy competition among our various green solutions. But taking that leap forward, in one session, I remember the last session we also discussed about last mile connectivity, which is strongly using electric vehicles, including two-wheelers, three-wheelers. But today, let's begin our session with a broader, long-distance, intercity, rural transport, and the other aspects of transport like railways, which is the biggest long-distance public transport India relies on, with thousands of kilometers of rail line, millions of people traveling every day. Similarly, aviation, road transport. So let's today discuss about long distance and a rural mobility, rural transport. For the discussions, we have a very distinguished panelist today. Let me begin with welcoming all my fellow panelists here. Mr. Ajay Jha. Ajay Jha is the Executive Director at the Ministry of Railways in the Railway Board, and handling environment and housekeeping and various aspects of railway within the railway board. He has also contributed into IRCON and DFCCI and other major projects which railway has been which are the pioneering projects and which are very prestigious projects which railway has completed in last few years. And to complement probably his work, sir, we all have experienced a huge amount of change in the cleanliness and overall, experience in the railways. And thanks to people like you who have been contributing for, better railway experience, railway travel experience. But today, of course, he will talk more about how do railway envisage converting it to more greener and cleaner transport. In fact, probably we can claim that now 100% railway is electrified, close to 100%. We have Mr. Vijay Nirani, who is Vice President and Managing Director of TruAlt Bioenergy. He'll be joining us soon. He had just called that his flight got delayed and he has just landed and is about to reach whatever time it takes from the airport to here. But hopefully, we'll have him join quickly and contribute, because he is one of the biggest producers of various forms of green fuels, including ethanol, CBG, SAF, variety of forms of. So we have an end user and we have a producer. So let's look at from that perspective. We also have Mr. Anil Dixit, who is Mr. Dixit, yeah, who is representing Bus and Car Operators Confederation of India, popularly known as BOCI, and he's also MD of Skyline Motors. So they are one of the, and he's VP Public-Private Partnership there, and they are one of the biggest, association of biggest bus operators in India, because a lot of private bus operators play a very critical role in point-to-point bus services in Indian context. So we welcome Mr. Dixit. We have Mr. Nilay Ranjan. Good morning, sir. Welcome to the IFGE session. Mr. Nilay Ranjan is Vice President and looking after sustainability in Air India and sustainable aviation fuel, which we have been, which has become a buzzword in aviation sector. So we will be, it will be privileged to, hear from Mr. Ranjan about Air India's, preparedness on sustainable aviation fuel and overall aviation sectors. How do they look at sustainable aviation fuel? How far we have crossed the bridge? That also will be very interesting to know, sir. Thank you for joining us today. Then we have Mr. Vineet Bakshi. He's from Lanzajet. He's joining at any moment. And we have Mr. Brijnandan Singh. Mr. Singh is, thank you for joining us, sir. He is from Wari, renewable energy expert. He has been into renewable sector for more than 29 years. And he is heading the solar, PV and green hydrogen initiatives. He has worked in various organizations and presently is working as General Manager Hydrogen, particularly at Wari Group. So we look forward for, that's another exciting, future fuel, as we may say. So it will be interesting to understand your perspective on how far we have gone in hydrogen sector. He'll be doing a short presentation. So, sir, let me begin with you, Mr. Singh. Let's begin with your presentation and look forward for a very valuable insights on the hydrogen. So, only a small request to all my co-panelists, be precise and brief so that we have a lot of time in the later part of the session to interact with the audience so that we can have a good conversation, because the whole idea is to develop a conversation, because most of our delegates are in this sector of green energy and they would like to benefit from your experience and expertise and develop a clear thought process in their mind. Over to you.
Thank you, sir, and good morning to all of you. Thanks to IFGE for giving this opportunity, in fact, to express myself. Just a short introduction about myself. I was with Ministry of New and Renewable Energy just before joining WADI 1 year back, and I had handled National Green Hydrogen Mission. I was the head PMU for that. So hydrogen, I have been involved in National Green Hydrogen Mission since the policy making. So just a short presentation. I will be interacting with you later after the session is over also. So, like this is a transport conclave. So I am focusing mainly on the transport sector only. I will stick to my time, so I put the timer also. So I will be focusing mainly on the road transport, railways and shippings. Now, the first and foremost, कल से हमने देख रहा कि हम लोग बात कर रहे हैं इलेक्ट्रीफाइंग पे. इलेक्ट्रीफाइंग जो है वो सबसे पहला प्रायोरिटी है किसी भी चीज़ को डिकार्बोनाइज करने के लिए, और उसके लिए हमारा जो अभी जो रिन्यूएबल का है वो 50% ऑफ द टोटल इंस्टॉल्ड कैपेसिटी है, मोर देन दैट. एंड हम लोग टारगेट कर रहे हैं 300 गीगावाट टोटल बाय 2030, 500 गीगावाट बाय 2030 एंड देन मेनी मोर टू कम, क्योंकि इंडिया के पास बहुत सारा रिसोर्सेज है. सो एक बार इलेक्ट्रिसिटी यदि ग्रीन हो गया और कहीं भी हम उसको ग्रीन करना चाहते हैं, दूसरे चीज़ों को डिकार्बोनाइज करना चाहते हैं, तो उसको ग्रीन कर देंगे. नाउ एप्लीकेबिलिटी से रोड ट्रांसपोर्ट जब आते हैं तो रोड ट्रांसपोर्ट कंट्रीब्यूट्स अराउंड 20 to 25% ऑफ ग्लोबल CO2 emissions. नाउ इसमें जो अभी पहल चल रही है दैट इज इलेक्ट्रिकल व्हीकल्स. नाउ इलेक्ट्रिकल व्हीकल्स बहुत सक्सेस है, शॉर्ट डिस्टेंसेस, सिटी रूट्स. अभी कुछ डेवलपमेंट हो रहा है तो 300 से 400 किलोमीटर भी दे रहे हैं. बट देन फॉर लॉन्ग हॉल व्हीकल्स वी आर फोकसिंग मोर ऑन अदर फ्यूल्स लाइक LNG फ्यूल्स भी चल रहा है. वी कैन नॉट बी ओनली रेस्ट्रिक्टेड टू वन थिंग. सो लॉन्ग हॉल में हम देखेंगे कि हाइड्रोजन इज मोर एफिशिएंट देन योर इलेक्ट्रिकल व्हीकल्स. हाई एनर्जी डेंसिटी है, क्विक रिफिलिंग है, जीरो एमिशन है. So if we compare the battery and the hydrogen, one is the range which is higher in the hydrogen vehicles, another one is refueling time, then instead of battery load, they will carry the actual load, so higher payloads will be there. So for long haul vehicles and heavy duty freights, hydrogen vehicle is more efficient than battery trucks at the present moment as per the calculations. So अब मोबिलिटी में क्या है, कल से हमने सुना कि लोग बोल रहे हैं कि फ्यूल सेल इलेक्ट्रिक व्हीकल, H2Is, ये है क्या? So फ्यूल सेल एक ऐसा है, it is electrical vehicle. See, it is not another mode of transport, it is an electrical vehicle driven by electric motor. बट यहाँ पे बैटरी जो पावर देती है उसको, इसके जगह एक दूसरा आइटम है दैट इज कॉल्ड फ्यूल सेल्स. हमारे इंडिया में भी बनता नहीं है और नेशनल ग्रीन हाइड्रोजन मिशन के अंदर इसको लिया भी नहीं गया है. बट नाउ वी आर एट प्रेजेंट वी आर इंपोर्टिंग एंड सम कंपनीज आर ट्राइंग टू पुट द बेस एंड मैन्युफैक्चरिंग यूनिट इन इंडिया. सो फ्यूल सेल्स में जाएंगे या फिर H2Is कुछ नहीं है, आजकल का जो IC इंजन है वही है, उसमें सिर्फ हाइड्रोजन होता है. तो उसके लिए थोड़ा सा मेटलर्जी अलग होता है, मेटल का कंपोजिशन, उसकी सेफ्टी, क्रैंक पिस्टन में हाइड्रोजन ना घुस जाए, ये सब का जो चीज़ें हैं वो थोड़ा सा ज़्यादा एफिशिएंट है H2Is में. इंडिया में क्यूमिंस विथ टाटा मोटर्स हैज स्टार्टेड प्रोडक्शन एंड कल की न्यूज़ आई है कि इन लखनऊ प्लांट टाटा मोटर्स इज प्लानिंग फॉर फ्यूल सेल एज वेल एज H2Is व्हीकल्स. तो ये एक अरेंजमेंट जस्ट फॉर ए विजन दैट कैसा होता है एक ट्रक में लगाएंगे तो कहाँ कहाँ सिलेंडर्स होते हैं, कहाँ पे फ्यूल सेल होता है. बहुत सारे अरेंजमेंट्स हैं इसके लिए. ये एक फ्यूल सेल का रिप्रेजेंटेशन है, कैसा फ्यूल सेल होता है, दिखने में कैसा लगता है. इंस्टेड ऑफ H2Is इंजन की जगह पे ये होती है. नाउ ये एक छोटा सा है, आप देखो बस में कैसा होता है. बस में सिलेंडर्स ऑन द टॉप एंड देन फ्यूल सेल्स एट द बॉटम एंड एंड द अरेंजमेंट कैसा होता है. कूलिंग अरेंजमेंट चाहिए फ्यूल सेल्स को, तो कूलिंग अरेंजमेंट छत के टॉप पे होता है. सो दैट दिस इज 4 बसेस ग्रेटर नोएडा में पड़ी हुई है. जिस दिन एयरपोर्ट का उद्घाटन होगा उस दिन वो बसेस चलेगी. इसके लिए फ्यूलिंग इंफ्रास्ट्रक्चर NTPC ने ऑलरेडी बना के रखा हुआ है. जो कोई H2 व्हीकल्स आएगी उसके लिए इंफ्रास्ट्रक्चर रेडी है NCR में. सो दिस इज द अरेंजमेंट. नाउ H2Is सिमिलर है, नॉर्मल है जो हमारी पेट्रोल ट्रक्स में बसेस में चलती हैं उनके लिए, सिर्फ थोड़ा सा मेटलर्जी में और उनके सेफ्टी में डिफरेंस होता है. आज के दिन में JCB, क्यूमेंस विथ इंडिया में विथ टाटा मोटर्स, वॉल्वो ग्रुप, ये लोग जो है अभी H2Is बना रहे हैं इंडिया में. बट फ्यूल सेल व्हीकल्स बन रहा है इंडिया में, टाटा मोटर्स भी बना रहा है, अशोक लेलैंड भी बना रहा है, बट फ्यूल सेल्स आर इंपोर्टेड, नॉट मैन्युफैक्चर्ड इन इंडिया. नेशनल ग्रीन हाइड्रोजन मिशन के अंदर में अभी पायलट स्केल चल रहा है हाइड्रोजन बसेस एंड ट्रक्स का. फर्स्ट राउंड में 37 व्हीकल्स, 22 ICE and 15 fuel cell based vehicles are running on the road under the trial. इसमें की प्लेयर्स एनटीपीसी, आईओसीएल, एचपीसीएल है। प्राइवेट प्लेयर्स में टाटा मोटर्स, रिलायंस, अदानी, ये लोग हैं। फर्स्ट राउंड में टोटल जो बजट है 500 करोड़ के आसपास का है। फर्स्ट राउंड में 208 करोड़ का डिसबर्समेंट हुआ है, एंड दैट इज 37 व्हीकल्स एंड 9 रिफ्यूलिंग स्टेशंस इन इंडिया। अब देखिए ये सब रूट्स है, ग्रेटर नोएडा, दिल्ली, आगरा, भुवनेश्वर, कोणार्क, अहमदाबाद, बड़ौदा, साहिबाबाद, फरीदाबाद, ये सब रूट्स हैं। 10 रूट्स पे डिफाइन किया गया है, एंड ये कंपनीज है। अब इसके अलावा सेकेंड राउंड का अभी टेंडर निकला था, इवेल्युएट हो गया है, पब्लिक में अभी उसका अनाउंसमेंट नहीं हुआ है, जल्दी ही होगा। उसमें भी मोर देन 50 व्हीकल्स हैं, मोर देन 10 रिफ्यूलिंग स्टेशंस हैं। सो इंडिया में इंफ्रास्ट्रक्चर हो रहा है फॉर रोड ट्रांसपोर्ट फॉर हाइड्रोजन व्हीकल्स। मैंने परसों ग्रेटर नोएडा में देखा, जा रहा था रास्ते पे, हाइड्रोजन बस चल रही थी, जा रही थी कहीं जा रहा होगा घुमाने के लिए, बट दैट इज फॉर एनटीपीसी। ठीक है, सो दिस इज सेकंड ट्रांच भी जल्दी अनाउंस होगा पीआईबी के थ्रू, एमएनआरई से। कॉस्ट इकोनॉमिक्स हमने कल देखा, कल साहब भी बोल रहे मिनिस्टर साहब की $1 यदि हो जाएगा हाइड्रोजन का कॉस्ट, देन इट विल बी वेरी मच वायबल। हमने जब निकाला है $2 यदि होता है तो पैरिटी आ जाएगी हाइड्रोजन और डीजल व्हीकल्स में। आज के दिन में 1 kg में 15 किलोमीटर का एवरेज मिल रहा है बसेज में, जो लेह में चल रही है एज ऑन डेट। सो $2 में इंडिया में डेवलपमेंट क्या क्या है। टाटा मोटर्स है कमिंस के साथ, ये ट्रक्स फ्लैग्ड ऑफ हुआ है मंत्री जी के थ्रू, देख सकते हैं आप, गडकरी जी वहां फ्लैग ऑफ किए हैं इस ट्रक्स को। ऐसे सारे ट्रक्स चल रहे हैं इंडिया में फॉर टेस्टिंग पर्पसेस। दिस इज अशोक लेलैंड बस।
Leads to the dream of greener mobility. With minor changes to our H series 6-cylinder internal combustion engine, we are able to deliver power and torque equivalent to a conventional engine. With a lean combustion strategy, it ensures minimal emissions and less noise.
तो ये है रिलायंस का, देखेंगे
stored and distributed through our extensive hydrogen retail network.
ये ट्रक्स चल रहे हैं रिलायंस के इन द फैक्ट्री ऑफ जामनगर। दे आर प्लानिंग 5000 व्हीकल्स।
Made in India, hydrogen internal combustion engine.
This is Adani. They had put up a hydrogen truck at their mines in Chhattisgarh. ठीक है, these are the arrangements. कैसा होता है ट्रक्स में, different type of arrangements for the cylinders, which is a type 4 cylinders, which is totally composite with a liner material. These are the different arrangements for your, just for your view, how different arrangements are there in the trucks. In the time to come, these all may be visible in India also. NTPC, you know, they have already placed a refueling station at Leh, and 5 buses are already commercially running there. Hydrogen buses for NCR, already I told you, it will be running very shortly, already in place at Greater Noida. This is the refueling station at NTPC Greater Noida. You can see that. Then what is the strategic roadmap by ministry? Delhi-Mumbai Industrial Corridor, Chennai-Bangalore Freight Corridor, hydrogen refueling stations at every 200 kilometers in DMIC, that is already in discussion with at MNRE. Scale infrastructure in phase 2, they will scale it more. So my time is coming on. Anyway, refueling stations, you can see these around 12 refueling stations in India at present under operations or under constructions. Now this is in Jind, Haryana, this is by BPCL. In Kochi, these are the number plates you will be seeing for the buses and trucks or the cars of hydrogen in the coming days. 3-wheelers already. Global development, you can see China and all those things. Railways, you are knowing. See, railways electrification is the best, but for some areas where the electrification is very, very difficult, like locomotives which run between the coal mines and the power plants, NTPC is doing that. They have awarded one contract at NTPC Sipat. These will be heritage, like Kalka Simla. So that is a very difficult electrification route. So they are planning for hydrogen, but electrified for railways are the best. So this is just a view. I will just roll out. So this is the train specification. I will share the PPT. Don't worry. So this is the award by NTPC for the railways for converting the locomotive of diesel locomotive into hydrogen locomotives with fuel cells. Shipping, you know, a lot of being talked of green fuel, green methanol and green ammonia. So lot of conversions are getting done in the global space, and we have also run some ferry with hydrogen fuel cells and liquid green methanol. This is also being talked of, and companies like Merck have already ordered 200 dual fuel ships, ammonia and methanol, and very soon it will be on the roads. A lot of things being done in bunker facilities for methanol and bunkering at the ports. Already Dindayal port has signed with Assam Petrochemicals. Then this is the ferry which already is running in India. I don't have much time. In this, the government is also doing, they are converting some tugboats into hydrogen fuel cell based, and Mazagon Dock has secured that. It is by Shipping Corporation of India. Then Chidambaram port, they are doing the bunkering of green methanol. This is under construction, and refueling facility under tendering. So this is the Merck's, this is the ammonia based Merck's vessel. This is ammonia powered Mitsui OSK lines and NYK group. They are also decarbonizing the thing. So we see that a lot of things are being done in India. I have completed my presentation. Since the time was less, I could not go through much in detail. Anyway, we can discuss more. So you can download the presentation by scanning it. Thank you very much. Right.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Das. Excellent presentation. You have given a complete overview about how hydrogen fuel-based transport is being worked out. A lot of development on the buses operating on both hydrogen fuel cells as well as hydrogen to ICE. Very heartening to know that the pilots are at very advanced stage at various places. Of course, you also mentioned about how do we are able to work out the economics, reduction the cost of production for hydrogen, cost of vehicle also, because you have mentioned about cost of vehicle also. I'm sure when our friend from Bus Operators Association he'll also speak about their challenges on bringing viability on the green fuel. So I'll request Mr. Dixit, since he is here, to talk about how do, from the bus operator's perspective, how do you look at converting our bus transport, which is primarily point-to-point and rural transport, to a more cleaner, greener methods? And your experiences in, now a lot of bus operators are operating electric vehicles for point-to-point, and of course, the future like hydrogen, future like ethanol-based buses. How do you look at it? Please, Mr. Dixit.
नमस्कार जी, मैं अनिल दीक्षित ये बताना चाहता हूँ कि हमारे देश में जो बसों के मॉडल हैं वो बहुत जल्दी चेंज हो जाते हैं. फॉर एग्ज़ाम्पल अभी डीजल की बसें चल रही थी, ऑल सडन हमने सीएनजी पे चेंज ओवर किया. अभी तक हम उस चेंज ओवर से उबर भी नहीं पाए थे कि हम इलेक्ट्रिक पे जा रहे हैं. ये बहुत अच्छी बात है कि हमें नई टेक्नोलॉजी पे जाना चाहिए. नई टेक्नोलॉजी हमारे फ़ायदे की है, लेकिन गवर्नमेंट कुछ पहलुओं पे ध्यान नहीं दे पाती है. उसके लिए बहुत बड़ा क्षेत्र है. सबसे पहले तो मैं गडकरी जी को धन्यवाद दूंगा कि उन्होंने इतनी सड़कें बनाई जिससे बसों के चलने में कुछ सहूलियतें हुई. दूसरा, उन्होंने अभी जो पीएमई योजना चालू की है वो सबसे ज़्यादा फ़ायदेमंद है, क्योंकि उसमें पर किलोमीटर बेस गवर्नमेंट को सब्सिडी है. तो गवर्नमेंट इंटरेस्ट लेगी और जो इंटरेस्ट लेगा वही उस पैसे को यूज़ कर पाएगा. तो पहले जो था वो ओईएम को फ़ायदा हुआ. ओईएम रोड टेक्नोलॉजी बदल रहे थे. गाड़ी की कीमत पहले 1 करोड़ फिर 80 लाख. तो गाड़ी की सर्टेनिटी नहीं है कि गाड़ी अभी किसी भी ओईएम से आप पूछें तो हर एक ओईएम कहेगा हाँ हमारे पास गाड़ी तैयार है. लेकिन प्राइवेट सेक्टर में बेचने के लिए किसी भी ओईएम के पास कोई गाड़ी तैयार नहीं है. आज ऑर्डर देने पर वो 4 महीने तक गाड़ी नहीं दे पाता, जबकि नॉर्मल गाड़ी डीजल की है, सीएनजी की है, वो वेरी नेक्स्ट डे डिलीवर हो जाती है। किसी का कोई शोरूम नहीं है, किसी का मार्केटिंग इंफ्रास्ट्रक्चर नहीं है, क्योंकि सिर्फ वो सब्सिडी पे जिंदा है। वो सब्सिडी ही चाहते हैं, इसकी वजह से उसकी कीमत बढ़ रही है। आज जो गाड़ी की कीमत है वो 35 से 40 लाख की गाड़ी, स्कूल बस 52 सीटर अवेलेबल है एसी में। उस गाड़ी में भी इंजन है, डिफरेंशियल है, ईच एंड एवरीथिंग इज देयर। लेकिन ऑल सडन अगर वो गाड़ी इलेक्ट्रिक में कन्वर्ट हो जाती है तो उसकी कीमत मोर देन 1 करोड़ है, जबकि फैक्ट गाड़ी में 35 लाख से ज़्यादा की बैटरी नहीं लगती। तो किसी भी कीमत में गाड़ी की कीमत 70 लाख से ऊपर नहीं जानी चाहिए, लेकिन जाती है। इंफ्रास्ट्रक्चर के नाम पे इलेक्ट्रिक में सभी प्राइवेट ऑपरेटर्स को इलेक्ट्रिफिकेशन का काम दिया है, चार्जिंग का काम दिया है। गवर्नमेंट उनको 4 रुपये, 8 रुपये, 6 रुपये पर यूनिट बिजली देती है, लेकिन जब वो सेल करते हैं 12 रुपये, 14 रुपये, 18 रुपये तक वो सेल कर रहे हैं, प्लस 18% जीएसटी चार्ज करते हैं। ये कॉस्टिंग जो है लगभग डीजल के बराबर हो जाती है, जो फिर नुकसान देती है। पहले गाड़ी की कीमत ज़्यादा, फिर उसकी मेंटेनेंस ज़्यादा। 5 साल बाद बैटरी का क्या फ्यूचर होने वाला है, नोबडी नोज। उस पर हमें बहुत पहले से प्लान करना चाहिए। मेरा उसके बारे में प्लान ये है कि जो बैटरीज़ हैं वो एकदम ज़ीरो नहीं होंगी, वो थोड़ी उनकी रेंज कम हो जाएगी। हमें उन बैटरीज़ को यूज़ करके हर ग्राम पंचायत में सोलर पैनल से चार्जिंग सिस्टम लगाना चाहिए, छोटा सा, जिससे हम डिस्ट्रिक्ट को कनेक्टिविटी कर पाएँ। अदरवाइज़ ये बैटरीज आगे जाने के बाद डंप हो जाएंगी, इनका स्क्रैप बहुत हैंडल करना बहुत मुश्किल होगा। तो मेरा मानना यही है कि अभी राइट टाइम है जब हम सोलर से इसको चार्ज करने के लिए सब्सिडाइज करें और हर गांव को इससे जोड़ने का प्रयास करें। इसके लिए मैं एक छोटा सा प्रयास कर रहा हूं। एक एक्सॉन इंजीनियरिंग कंपनी है, उसके साथ मैंने टाई अप किया है। अगले 2-3 महीने के अंदर मैं एक नोएडा से देहरादून जाने के रास्ते पे मेरठ के बाद एक सोलर चार्जिंग सिस्टम बनाऊंगा, जो 250 किलोवाट का होगा। उसमें बैटरी सिस्टम होगा, चार्जिंग होगी और वो 24 घंटे काम करेगा। रीज़न बीइंग कि अभी जो इंफ्रास्ट्रक्चर डेवलप करते हैं, अभी जो हम चार्जिंग स्टेशन बनाते हैं बाकी हाईवेज पे, वहाँ पे उनको रूरल से कनेक्शन दिया हुआ है। जो 50 गाड़ियों को, सवारियों को लेके बस जाती है, वहाँ पर चार्जिंग सिस्टम फेल हो जाता है, क्योंकि ग्रिड में 4-4 घंटे तक लाइट नहीं आती है। इसलिए वहाँ पर सोलर सिस्टम होना चाहिए, एनर्जी सेविंग के लिए बैटरीज होनी चाहिए, तभी हमारा सिस्टम फ्रूटफुल होगा, मेरा ये मानना है। कुछ डाटाज में बुद्धिजीवी लोग बैठे हैं, उनके सामने बताना चाहूँगा कि पूरे देश में लगभग 22 लाख बसें चलती हैं, जिसमें 18,50,000 बसें प्राइवेट ऑपरेटर चलाता है। सिर्फ 2 से 2.5 लाख बसें जो है गवर्नमेंट की हैं, उसमें भी 25% पीपीपी मॉडल में चलती हैं, वो भी ओन बाई गवर्नमेंट नहीं होती। उससे पर डे 40 करोड़ लोगों को हम रोज कैरी करते हैं। इसमें 7 करोड़ लोग गवर्नमेंट लेती है और 35 करोड़ लोग हम लोग उठाते हैं। हवाई जहाज से 5 लाख से 6 लाख लोग एवरी डे ट्रेवल करते हैं। रेलवे से 2 to 3 करोड़ के बीच में लोग हैं। अभी मेट्रो आ गई है, तो मेट्रो से इनकी संख्या कुछ बढ़ जाएगी, 3 से 4 करोड़ के बीच पहुंच जाएगी। लेकिन हमारी भी संख्या, चूँकि रोड अच्छे हो गए हैं, हमारी भी संख्या बढ़ने वाली है। मेरा इसमें सुझाव ये है कि एक तो हम जो बैटरी चार्जिंग स्टेशन हैं इधर उधर लगाने के बजाय, जितने भी स्कूल हैं सभी में बसों की पार्किंग है। बसों की पार्किंग के साथ साथ उनको सब्सिडाइज बिजली भी मिलती है, हम वहाँ पे चार्जिंग स्टेशन लगाएं और अपने शहर के सिस्टम को स्मूथ करें। दूसरा, एयरपोर्ट पे जितने भी व्हीकल्स चलते हैं वो 100% इलेक्ट्रिफिकेशन या हाइड्रोजन व्हाटएवर इट इज़, वो उनको कन्वर्ट करना चाहिए। उसका रीज़न है कि वो ब्रेकडाउन होने से वहाँ पर हम जल्दी हैंडल कर सकते हैं। जैसे अभी 300 किलोमीटर देहरादून जाते हैं, रास्ते में चार्जिंग होती है, सिस्टम फेल हो जाता है तो दिक्कत आती है, लेकिन अभी गाड़ियाँ आ गई हैं वो 300 किलोमीटर नॉन स्टॉप जाती हैं, लेकिन उनकी कीमत 1.5 करोड़ रुपए से कम नहीं है। कोई भी गाड़ी 1.5 करोड़ रुपए से कम नहीं है। और 5 साल के बाद उनकी बैटरी का क्या होगा और नेक्स्ट बैटरी कितने की मिलेगी कोई भी ओईएम नहीं बताता। कितनी लाइफ है वो नहीं बताता। अगर आप इसकी कॉस्टिंग को जोड़ लें तो ये डीजल के बराबर है। बैटरी की 5 साल कीमत को किलोमीटर में डिवाइड करते हैं तो वो, और जो फ्यूल कॉस्ट लग रही है उसको जोड़ते हैं तो ये हमारे डीजल के पर किलोमीटर के बराबर फ्यूल आता है। ये हमारा थोड़ा कष्ट है, इस पर थोड़ा फोकस होना चाहिए, सोलर से होना चाहिए। और इसके ऊपर जो जीएसटी लगता है वो 18% है, वो नहीं होना चाहिए क्योंकि हम उसको प्रमोट कर रहे हैं और इससे मेरा ये मानना है कि इसको हटाया जाए। बाकी और तो मैंने सारी बातें आपको पॉइंट वाइज पॉइंट बता दी। गवर्नमेंट के साथ हम खड़े हैं, जैसे चेंजेस आएंगे हम उसके साथ हैं। धन्यवाद।
थैंक यू दीक्षित साहब, आपने बहुत अच्छा एक यूज़र पर्सपेक्टिव दिया, क्योंकि हम सब लोग कल से टेक्नोलॉजी साइड पर, ओईएम्स भी कल बहुत सारे यहाँ थे, हम अलग अलग सॉल्यूशंस के बातें कर रहे हैं, लेकिन फ्रॉम द यूज़र्स पर्सपेक्टिव उन सॉल्यूशन का के ऑन द ग्राउंड चैलेंजेस क्या है, चाहे वो चार्जिंग सिस्टम के हो, चाहे हमने इकोनॉमिक वाइबिलिटी का इशू आपने रेज किया, बहुत इम्पॉर्टेंट एस्पेक्ट है जिनको हम जब तक एज अ इंडस्ट्री, एज ए इकोसिस्टम जब तक एड्रेस नहीं करेंगे तो मुझे नहीं लगता कि हम सब लोगों का जो लार्जर ऑब्जेक्टिव है हमारे ट्रांसपोर्ट को ज़्यादा क्लीनर ग्रीनर बनाना, क्योंकि हमने देखा पिछले 1-1.5 साल में लॉट ऑफ क्रिटिसिज्म भी लगातार होता रहता है दोनों तरफ से। इसलिए हमारे वी विल हैव टू बी वेरी पर्टिकुलर इन मेकिंग श्योर दैट the technologies and the solutions we promote will be perfect in all sense of the whole ecosystem. Before I go to our next speaker, let me also welcome Mr. Vineet Bakshi, who has joined us from Lanzajet. Mr. Bakshi is a director business development at Lanzajet. Lanzajet represents the technology side of the entire ecosystem. So whether it is 2G ethanol, whether it is hydrogen, whether it is so various bioenergy initiatives, technology initiatives, Lanzajet is a leader in that sector and will be benefited from his perspective on the technology side. So thank you for joining us. But let me invite Mr. Jha, Mr. Ajay Jha, who probably is one of the biggest transporter in India. Railway, Indian Railways is the biggest transporter, both in terms of number and reach. And Railway has done a phenomenal job in last 1 year. Apart from the, new engineering monuments they have created, like the Chambal and the Pamban. But beyond that, a very silent revolution has happened on the converting the entire Indian Railways to more cleaner and greener fuel and energy solutions. So I would request Mr. Jha to, of course, talk about. There is a mic if you want to speak from here, or you can use podium, whatever you are comfortable with. And I'll request you to talk about how Railway is looking at converting its entire operations to more cleaner, greener. In fact, Railway was one of the first pioneering organizations to focus on biodiesel when they have a very large fleet of diesel engines. But today, almost 100%, sir, we have electrified. So over to you with the perspective on railways. Thank you.
Thank you. My introduction has already been given by the host. Indian Railways बहुत बड़ी organization है. It's a very big organization. Lot of activities पूरे all over India में ये spread out है. There are different directorates. Around 15 लाख के करीब हमारे 14 से 15 लाख के करीब employees होते हैं. 12 से 15 लाख, कभी 15 लाख हो जाते हैं, कभी हम 12-13 लाख. इस तरीके से we are managing. So it's a very spread out in all over India. इसके लिए we did the electrification. We took it as a mission. This thing कि we should have a 100% electrification. 100% electrification के meaning कि जहाँ भी हमारी trains चल रही हैं, it should be electrified. It does not mean कि we will be diesel engine हम totally खत्म कर देंगे, because in emergency situations जब आपके electric lines वगैरह या जो pentlobe या कोई भी एक problem आ जाती है, कोई failures होता है, तो we need a diesel engine जहाँ पे आपको उसको ट्रैक से गाड़ी को ले जाके पुश करना पड़ता है, ट्रैक से हटाना पड़ता है, नहीं तो पूरा का पूरा आपका ट्रैक जो है वो जाम हो जाएगा, है ना. तो that is an emergency measure. But lot of initiative has been taken ताकि हम अपना fossil fuel को उसका use हम almost ख़त्म ही कर दें. तो around 99.5% more than that electrification has already been done all over Indian Railways. और इसको we are going a step further. What we are trying to do is कि ये तो हम scope 1 emitter तो हम हो जाएंगे, बट उसके beyond क्या है, scope 1 emitter से जो हम बिजली ले रहे हैं वो तो कहीं ना कहीं fossil fuel से आ रही है, कहीं ना कहीं हम thermal plant से ले रहे हैं. तो it is our mission कि इसको भी हम replace करें solar power, wind energy और जितने भी alternative है, hydrogen resources से, कहीं से भी जितने भी alternative resources हैं जो कि हमारे fossil fuel पे dependency ख़त्म कर दे, और उसको हम एक्सप्लोर करके उसको हम रिप्लेस करने के लिए हमारा दैट इज़ आवर टारगेट, उसको हम कर रहे हैं. तो अराउंड 1120 के करीब हमारा सोलर रूफटॉप ऑलरेडी इंस्टॉल्ड है, उसके करीब हमारा अराउंड 1500 ऑलरेडी हमारे टाइप्स वगैरह हो चुके हैं. और एक अलग डायरेक्टरेट हमारे रेलवे बोर्ड में क्रिएट किया गया है, एन EEM डायरेक्टरेट, जो ये सारी चीज़ें को देखेगा, एनर्जी एफिशिएंसी मेजर्स वगैरह को देखेगा कि आगे किस तरीके से हम इसको कम कर सकें. वी आर हैविंग दो तरीके से 2 pronged स्ट्रैटेजी. वन इज़ कि अपनी एनर्जी रिक्वायरमेंट को कम करें. कैसे कम करें उसको, कि हम अपने नए नए टेक्नोलॉजीज़ को लेके आएँ ताकि हमारी वही चीज़ जो हमारी रिक्वायरमेंट है, लाइक LED कन्वर्जन, दैट हैज़ बीन डन 100%. जहाँ जहाँ आपकी नई बिल्डिंग्स बन रही हैं उसको मैक्सिमम नेचुरल लाइट्स वगैरह उसको यूज़ करके आप एनर्जी कंजम्पशन उसमें कम करें. और भी सुपर ECBC नॉर्म्स, दीज आर द थिंग्स विच वी आर डूइंग. पहले हम एनर्जी रिडक्शन का रिक्वायरमेंट कम करें और फिर उसको हम रिप्लेस करें हम रिन्यूएबल एनर्जी रिसोर्सेज से. अभी लेटेस्ट हमारा चल रहा है वो पायलट प्रोजेक्ट हमारा अभी चल रहा है जिसमें हाइड्रोजन ट्रेन के लिए हम कर रहे हैं कि हाइड्रोजन ट्रेन हमारा उसमें कितना सक्सेसफुल होता है, डेट विल डिपेंड आफ्टर द पायलट प्रोजेक्ट, और फिर उसको लॉन्च करेंगे आगे. तो दीज आर द मैनी इनिशिएटिव्स. और एक अलग डायरेक्टरेट बनाया गया रेलवे बोर्ड में, दैट इज़ कॉल्ड ENHM, इन्वायरमेंट एंड हाउसकीपिंग. ये तो आपके हो गए जो कि एनर्जी कंजर्वेशन की. इसके अलावा भी बहुत सारी चीज़ें हैं. सॉलिड वेस्ट मैनेजमेंट है, हमारा जो ट्रेन में जो हमारा वेस्ट जनरेशन होता है उसको मैनेज कैसे करना है, कितने हमारे कंपोस्टिंग प्लांट्स वगैरह हम जहाँ भी फिजिबल है वहाँ लगवाते हैं. तो एट ऑल फ्रंट रेलवे इज़ वर्किंग कि हमारा जो है नेट ज़ीरो, सही मायने में नेट ज़ीरो हो सके. तो ब्रीफली दिस इज थिंग. बाकी क्वेश्चन आंसर सेशन में अगर कुछ होगा देन वी विल डिस्कस इट. थैंक यू.
Thank you, Mr. Jha. Very good perspective on railways initiative to convert it to more cleaner, greener transport. Before I bring in Mr. Bakshi to talk about on the technology side, we have another sector which is very exciting, the aviation sector. And we have Mr. Nilay Ranjan here, who represents Air India, who is Vice President Sustainability in Air India. And we have been, most of the speakers yesterday were talking about sustainable aviation fuel. And we do understand that sustainable aviation fuel is produced from the biofuels, ethanol and other source. And we do know that globally 1% blending target has been set for 2030. But we would definitely keen to understand from your perspective how it's working in, how do Indian aviation sector is looking at it. and as the end user in Indian aviation sector with the biggest, one of the biggest players in Indian aviation sector, how do Air India is preparing for it, and how do things are moving on ground? And do you believe that this target is doable? Because one element which all the participants from yesterday are talking about, a very good production capacity India has developed in last few years on ethanol. And then how do we address that, in a way, excess capacity now in India? And sustainable aviation fuel seems to be one alternative where a lot of our ethanol producers can immediately look at. So, Mr. Ranjan, over to you.
Yeah, thank you. So, let me set the context. In India, aviation sector itself, the aviation sector is committed for net zero by 2050. So, target is fixed not by India, globally. So, by 2050, we have to be net zero. To facilitate the targets, we have a policy also supports. So, ACAIA, which is a regulator, they said that by 2050 net zero, and the mandatory phase for reduction start from next year, 27. So, each airlines have to reduce emissions, whatever the emission due, and there is a state growth factor, multiply by the emissions, and that reductions need to be happen by each airlines from the next year. And because policy commitment, because for each ACAIA, each government is committed. So, we have to do it from the next year onwards, and that is the mandatory phase. The third part is that about the airlines and the mandates. So, there is a two compliances which is coming to the sector. First is European Unions. European Union compliance that key for each aircraft which is flying in from Europe, they have 2% blend of the SAF. And for Indian aviation sector, ACAIA mandate will come from the next year, but still the voluntary phase, you have to also do that. So, it is not like about what we do, we have to do it because it's a compliance is a mandate, and we have to do that. For any green initiative in the aviation sector, standard products, there is a three lever only. First, by changing the engine, each 20 years, 15 years, aviation sectors, new engines introduced, and technologically, that's more fuel efficient. So, you reduce your fuel consumption by 20%, 50% by adoption of the new technology. Indian sector is a most of the airlines are new. Most of the aircrafts have adopted the new aircraft. Like in Air India, we have a 75% of the new engines aircraft. So, you're fuel efficient. Similarly with the Indigo also, 80%, 90% of the new engines. And we are also buying all the aircraft which is new aircraft. So, 100,000 new aircraft is going to become in India. So, largest growth sector globally is in India. Because all sector are matured, India is growing because most of the two operators have added more aircraft. Then, so technology maximum what we do, we are already doing it. Second is the lever is operational efficiency. So the way we operate, the way you fly, there is a processes through which you can reduce. But that is also a limitation of 7 to 8%. But for net zero, only lever we can change you have to change the fuel, and that is a SAF. So sustainable aviation fuel, there are different processes through sustainable aviation fuel can be produced. And one of the processes which is globally acknowledged and people are start doing it, use cooking oil. So use cooking oils, there is a eco methods for which the SAF is produced, and it helps in terms of reductions of the carbon molecule from the while we drive. Globally, 2 to 2.5% total emissions contribution by the aviation sector, but it's a big number, and we have to start reducing those sector by limiting by 2019 level from the next year onwards. So policy is there, target is there. The major challenges now is a productions, because not only India, across the globe we have to do the productions, and second the feedstocks for the productions, because if you look at India, India is the opportunity because all the feedstocks is available in India. But demand is huge because if you look at the Gulf, there is no green. So they also have to do the mandate. So there is no feedstock there. So India has the opportunity for the feedstocks, but now the productions need to be start for the next year. And second part is the cost competitiveness. Because each sector like transports, railway, each sector, the moment cost go up, it is affect the customer. So you cannot pass on the customers the cost. Right now, the cost which is prevalent across the globe, SAF is 2.8 times to 3 times of the jet fuel. So the moment we introduce more SAF, also have to cost competitive to the fuel. And they said that it's demand and supply, the more production, the cost will automatically come. Until that is not there, increased consumption of the feedstock SAF for the airlines is a difficulty. Because until it's a 1.5 times also, we can use more SAF, rather than another option is carbon offset. Because carbon offsets is the option available for the airlines. Either you use SAF or you do the carbon offsets. But the SAF is important because we also want, because the moment like that, my earlier co-panelists, both of them has seen the transitions from by electrifications in the surface transport, both the bus, car and the railway. Airlines, you don't have those options because it requires a huge capacity, and by electric aircraft is still very nascent stage. People are doing it, but it's not feasible. And SAF is only attractive, we have to work it out. Government of India is doing it because IOCL, Air India has already signed agreement with the IOCL, Panipat. They start going to produce from mid of this year, by July, some of the SAF, and other OMC also start doing. Private sector also start investing for the eco processes. Ethanol, we have the capacity, but technology is not matured. My co-panelist is sitting here, Vineet, he's working hard for the last 3 years to start the plant, but is not very near full. Like the next year is not going to happen. It's going to happen for at least 2-3 years. And Government of India has given a mandate for the airlines that to comply with the production of the SAF and strengthening ecosystems, 1% blending for the next year, 2% blending for 28, and 5% blending by 2030. So Government of India has proactively set this mandate for the Indian sector. So any aircraft which is moving from the next year have to 1% blend. And globally, some of the airlines or government already introduced the SAF, like Singapore have maybe 1% SAF from this year itself. So it is required for preparedness for the next year. Just 6 months we have. Airlines is committed because global compliances, but it's not only airlines can do, is the OMC, the new manufacturers also have to come forward, and the government is preparing a SAF policy which is going to come out very well soon. 2-3 months that they are starting sharing the draft SAF policy to everyone. So we need more manufacture, we need more technology to mature, because demand is there, and demand is mandated by acknowledged by the industry by 2050. So 25 years we have to do, and we have to completely change the SAF fuel.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Ranjan, for a very good perspective on SAF. And it's very heartening to know that Indian aviation sector is very positively looking at adopting SAF beyond the mandatory things. It's taking initiative in reducing the emissions, both in terms of technology upgradation and as well as faster implementation of SAF. And therefore, there is an opportunity, but as you said, there is also a challenge where our friend organizations like Mr. Bakshi's organization will play a very critical role in making sure that India develops those capacities of producing initiatives like SAF, like we discussed about hydrogen. Technology needs to mature. Similarly, SAF also. So I would invite Mr. Vineet Bakshi to chip in at this point of time and talk about overall biofuel technologies and how do you look at growth that is happening from the technology standpoint perspective, and how do opportunities and challenges you look in the development of technologies and the overall growth of the biofuel in the...
Thank you, Vaibhav, and first and foremost, thanks to the organizers for having us here to be a part of discussion on this subject of so much relevance, and all the more importance now, like what we have been seeing happening in West Asia, the crisis which has been happening. So what it calls for more energy security and more options as alternate fuels. And I'm sure the context has already been said, and Nilay also made my work easier because I was about to start with, like how, what are the levers to decarbonize aviation sector. So he already shared that. So what I'll be covering is, I'll be covering about the first and foremost the technology options, then deep dive into our technology, Of course, what are the feedstock options? Because as a country, you need to have ample feedstock. Otherwise, kahani wahi hogi ki aap bahar se import kar rahe ho, which will not make a lot of sense. Then I'm also going to touch upon the price because affordability is an important point and how things are happening globally. Fourth, I'll be touching upon the policy aspect, like because we are developing projects across the globe and how we are making it happen and how that can happen in India also, right? So for, as Nilay ji mentioned, there are 3 major levers, and out of those which he mentioned, 65 to 70% of decarbonization can be brought about by adoption of SAF, which is a sustainable aviation fuel. And right now it contributes around 2.5%, but the way air traffic is projected to grow, by 2050, if it's not stopped, the contribution can be around like 5%. So touching about the technologies for SAF, there are a few proven pathways. If you go by Corsia and ASTM, there are 11 pathways which they have mentioned, but not all of them are approved by ASTM as of now. So HEFA is one of the pathways which has been a prevalent pathway wherein you use a used cooking oil. It's relatively like old pathway and a more proven one, I would say, for the simple fact because if you look at the genesis of HEFA pathway, that happened with the aim of providing you renewable diesel and renewable naphtha. So SAF, it got tweaked along 2019 or 2020 when there was a requirement of SAF. Yes, it's more mature pathway, but at the same time, if you look at in last 10 to 12 years, there have been hardly any plans, based on the HEFA pathway. So a couple of reasons for that has been, A, there wasn't any mandate per se in India, and second was, it's actually the availability of feedstock, which is a major constraint. It's a good low-hanging fruit because you can tweak your refinery processes, per se the hydrotreating and the hydrocrackers, and you can take in a 5% of the blend. So, and that is how even in India, the OMCs are planning. They are planning to start with HEFA pathway because it's a minor alteration in their existing feed pre-treatment section, which needs to be done. But the bigger question is, by choosing HEFA pathway, the fuel and the quantity which they are targeting will maximum be 1% or 1.5%, right? But what India is looking as Vaibhav ji also mentioned and Nilay ji also, so we have a blending target. It's not a mandate per se still in India, but we have a blending target of 1% by 2027. That's when the second phase of CORSIA sets in. Every airline which takes off from here, especially internationally, a portion of SAF has to be blended, otherwise you will be penalized. And 2% by 2028 and 5% by 2030. That's per se about India. And if you look globally, there are countries like UK which have a stringent target like 10% by 2030. There are countries like Poland and Germany, which have around 14%. And further, if you look at industry as a whole, through CORSIA, they have adopted a goal. By 2050, we'll decarbonize, we'll achieve net zero. And if you look at the requirement, just to reach 5% of the global requirement, the numbers are 15 million tons. And to reach the requirement of achieving a net zero by 2050, the number would be around 500 million ton. Now that is a massive number. And right now, if you look at where are we are, I think hardly 0.3%, right? 1% no, I'm saying about the SAF supply vis-a-vis ATF supply. So we are not there even 0.3%. So the point I'm trying to make is, HEFA is a good initial low-hanging fruit, but it cannot get you more than 1.2%. So where do you look at? So the next obvious choice is alcohol to jet. Now when you talk about alcohol to jet, there are 2 pathways. One is methanol to jet, second is ethanol to jet. Methanol to jet is yet to be approved by ASTM for blending, whereas ethanol to jet, and that's a pathway, which I'm going to talk about. It is like our technology, 50% of blending is allowed by ASTM. And just a correction, Nilay ji, the plant, you said the plant is yet to start. Our plant started in last November. That's in US. I think you met in India, right? Yeah, India one is yet. So if you look at alcohol to jet, the good point is for a country like ours, we are ethanol surplus already, right? So one of the easiest way is we just pivot the surplus ethanol to make SAF. And the good part about our technology is that, we have a flexibility. You can make 90% of SAF and 10% of renewable diesel under the normal circumstances. But if there is a requirement of more renewable diesel, because per se, country also has a target, apart from ethanol blending, of a diesel blending, which was 5%, but right now we are only around 1% for that. So when you make SAF via our technology, which is ethanol to jet, you also end up making 10% renewable diesel. But if the requirement is more, running plant can be altered. You can make 75% of diesel and 25% of SAF. And to substantiate the point, which Nilay ji was making, that was the reason we, Lanzajet as a company, we invested in a plant. You rarely see a technology providing, setting up a plant. But that's actually a testament of commitment, to decarbonize this sector, that we invested in this plant. The plant is in US. It's world first integrated alcohol to jet plant at any location. And it's in Freedom Pines. The plant capacity is 10 million gallons, which is 30 KTA. And it took us long because, when you initially scale up to reach from pilot to demo and from demo to commercial, it takes time. There were challenges, we overcome that. And in a way, what we have done is, we have de-risked the future projects. So anyone who is investing in alcohol to jet technology, ethanol to jet technology, we have already seen what the challenges are, and all those will be part of our design package, when we give the bid up to anyone. And our plan is very simple, globally, we want to just replicate that facility, and even to a scale of 3x or 4x. So right now there are 6 projects which are in advanced stage, and we are doing projects with Australia by the name of Jet Zero. You all can Google that. With Japan, the Cosmo project is there. There are 2 projects in UK by the name of Project Dragon and Speedbird, and all of them are based either on ethanol, which is available there, depending upon the local regulation, and 3 of them are actually based in the first step using Lanzajet's gas fermentation technology. We convert the waste into ethanol, and in the second part, we use Lanzajet's technology, and we convert that ethanol into SAF. Next, I said, I'm going to talk about the feedstock. So far, when you talk about the feedstock, we listen to Yucca, the waste cooking oil, the tree burn oil, these are the feedstock, which can be used for HEFA pathway. There is the surplus ethanol. The good part about alcohol to jet technology is you can give it ethanol from any technology. See, it's like at the end of the day, hydrogen is hydrogen. We can call it green, blue, black, but the properties, it's just of ethanol, right? So you can have ethanol from any technology. Just an example, Europe only allows for SAF. What Europe will allow is, they won't allow a food versus, they have this food versus fuel debate. So they won't be allowing the 1G ethanol, but for that advanced ethanol, they'll allow that, and they'll allow eSAF. Now eSAF is again something, you take CO2 which is emitting from any facility, you mix it with renewable hydrogen, with green hydrogen, and you can make SAF. And that is what, India has ample of CO2s which are coming out from all the facilities. In fact, for NTPC, we are setting up a plant wherein we are taking CO2 from the flue gas emission. we are converting it to ethanol in the first phase. In the second phase, that will be converted to SAF. Now imagine every refinery, every steel facility, every manufacturing asset will have CO2. And it can be a biogenic or a non-biogenic CO2. In case it's a biogenic CO2, you can use it forever. There is no sunset clause. But as of now, for fossil CO2, like Europe has a sunset clause, a fuel, they call it RFNBO, which is a renewable fuel of non-biogenic origin. So until 2035, you can make any fuel from that fossil CO2 and you can sell it in Europe. They have a sunset clause in 2035 only for the CO2 from power industry. CO2 from cement industry, it can go until 2042, but we are very much hopeful because the stringent mandates Europe has adopted, the sunset clause will easily be pushed back to 2045. But the good part is countries like UK, you don't have a sunset clause on a fossil CO2. In fact, UK and Europe, they have been so much, forthcoming. They have, apart from the mandate of SAF, they have a sub-mandate for PTL. Sub-mandate mean a part of advanced SAF has to be through the CO2 feedstock, right? And not only this, they have given a buyout price, a very attractive buyout price, as high as £5 per liter, which comes out to around 8,000 per ton. This is to promote production of that. Government is willing to participate in that. What US is doing, US playing to its advantage, they have allowed the corn-based ethanol to qualify as SAF. So, for US, if you show a 40% reduction in, it qualifies as SAF. In UK, the reduction needs to be 50%, it qualifies as SAF. But if you want a certificate, the reduction I'm talking about is a carbon reduction, net to net in the fuel. If it's 70%, you get a certificate in UK. For Europe, the reduction on the carbon intensity has to be 70%. Now everybody is looking at India, like what will India do, because obviously we as a country has to also play to like its advantage. So if we allow 40% and the usage of 1G ethanol, which is right now surplus, so then I think the best bet is your straight away alcohol to jet, right? So that is why I say it's a technology of future. And not only this, the feedstock which India has, you have surplus ethanol, then you have a lot of MSW, you have CO2 waste feedstock which are available, you have the agri waste. And all these can actually be converted to ethanol through our technology. I'm talking about the Lanzajet technology, wherein we use synthetic biology with the help of naturally existing microbes. We convert all of this waste into ethanol through gas fermentation. Now the challenge was to convert in ethanol, because the moment you convert it to ethanol, again that can be taken into SAF. So India, in a way, we just need to look around. A lot of feedstock is there, and we are clearly poised, as Nilay also mentioned, the cost of production is globally known, from the project's point of view, they are the lowest in China and India. So India has a very advantage this time to take a lead, be it an eSAF from CO2 plus renewable hydrogen or from any waste feedstock we can make here and, we can export it to the world. Then I wanted to talk about like price, which of course is very important, and it hurts the airlines. I totally understand. I totally understand his pain. But if you look at, there are, a lot of levers to control the cost. You look at alcohol to jet technology, 75% of the cost is actually the cost of ethanol. So now that depends where my ethanol comes from. You give me a cheaper ethanol, I can make SAF at a price of, say, 1.8 to 2x, right? You have CO2 available, sir, right? In case I go for CO2 plus green hydrogen pathway, 75% cost is actually the cost of green hydrogen. Now, what we are hearing, like last month a tender was awarded in Northeast. So the hydrogen price of 279 rupees, which is 3.1 USD. And we have been hearing from the likes of Adani's and Reliance, they want to bring down the cost to 1 or 1.5. I'm not talking about 1, but even if you can get a cost under 2.5, your eSAF is so much competitive, Nileji, you can make it at 1.3 times. See, some price barrier will always be between a fossil ATF because it's a very mature technology. The supply has been there. It takes industry too. But we can bring it down provided the cost, when cost comes down. Another thing, I talk about the waste feedstock. Like right now, we are making ethanol from the waste emissions of steel mill plants in China. So there are plants of ArcelorMittal where we are capturing the off gases from hydrogen and in China. And the cost of making ethanol from steel mill gases, it's actually somewhere between 28 to 32 rupees. Now imagine you getting ethanol at such a cheap price, Nilay, again, my cost of SAF will come down, it can easily come down to 1.25, 1.3 times. It's only the mindset, we're talking with a lot of steel players in India. See, as an industry, they're also looking out like what's in them to go for ethanol. I'm sure when the mandates come, now the CCO scheme has been announced, they'll have something for them. So once this happens, so there can be enough of supply. And the last, but not the least, is the policy, The policy support is very much required. The policy intervention is required. We have seen that in case of ethanol. We were around hardly 1.2% until 2015, and now we are 20%. So much so we are in ethanol surplus countries. So favorable policy is required. And since a lot of our projects are happening globally, we see how they're making it happen. They are support in terms of pricing. It could be like either the premium price you provide, or you just allow the price to happen on the cost plus basis. But one part, which often the airlines overlook, the blending is not going to be 100%. The blending will only be 1% and 5% by 2030, which means even I'm giving you a SAF price at 2.5x, the delta in your SAF would be 0.95 into ATF price and 0.05 into this, which is actually negligible cost. And the studies have been done. Singapore is actually, they have taken the lead in this. And Singapore did a study last year, and I'm talking about the government department, the aviation department in Singapore. So they showed a flight from Singapore to Tokyo with one person, the price will go up by $16, and a flight from Tokyo to London, the price will go up by $15. Now for an international flight, I think that price can be absorbed, right? And at the end of the day, like nobody is asking the airlines to absorb this price. You can always pass it to a consumer. It's something be done for, I think, for every individual. I think we all need to pay for that. So today when we say there are countries, very clearer countries, so we need to see how things are happening elsewhere. Even running a car in Singapore, it's a, you need to shell out a lot from your pocket. So we're not saying to do that, but a part of this, if government is not willing to pay some incentive, this can be passed out to consumer, and it's fine. The delta is not going to be too much. One more thing, and which is very important, which is often overlooked, like how to bring these projects, to a stage of maturity and commercial stage. So what is happening? UK government last year, their Department of Transportation, they came out with a scheme wherein they invited expression of interest for making advanced SAF, and they had committed a fund of 63 million, which was distributed amongst the selected ones. So wherein they are willing to support a project till pre-FID. Now what that means is, and luckily two of our projects, one is led by Lanzajet, name of project Dragon, other is project Speedbird by Lanzajet, so we are leading that. What we are doing, so how the government is helping, they are helping the project to come in pre-FID stage. And this is one of the hurdle, Vaibhav, which usually we face in India. You go to a customer, the customer, for some reason, they don't want to commit any capital, but they want to know a plus minus 10 to 15% cost, right? So how does it happen? Because you need to hire a consultant. I'm a technology provider. I'll spend my man hours, generating an engineering package to write that. So how it happens? So how it happens is that the pre-FID funding is being supported by the government. You reach a stage where you can show any investor 10 to 15% of my cost estimate, then you attract the investors, right? So if something similar can be done in India, and if they don't want to provide this, it can be done with the caveat. You help us in the pre-FID funding, and once the project goes beyond FID, same can be reimbursed. So these things can be done. Then of course the price support is needed. Like US is giving tax credit incentives for this. UK, as I said, they're giving a premium price. Europe is penalizing, So any of the yardstick, it could be a carrot on stick, approach which needs to be there. So these are the things, which needs to be done. And then, of course, another thing which you said, apart from aviation sector, there's a lot of scope for ethanol also. We should look for ethanol blending in diesel. And one thing which very few are aware of, ethanol is also being looked as future marine fuels. Likes of Merckx and Wärtsilä, they have already initiated a study, wherein ethanol used to be used as a bunker fuel. The benefit of ethanol is its energy density is, I think, 35 to 40% high compared to methanol. So ethanol suppliers may continue making ethanol. It can be pivoted either as the marine fuel to diesel or SAF. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Vineet, for a very good detailed perspective on how technology is playing and shall play a very critical role in achieving our objective of converting our various fuels, whether it is SAF, as you rightly mentioned about initiatives on the marine fuels. I remember last year's IFGE delegation was in Brazil, and some of their ethanol producers are working with organizations like Merckx to use ethanol as a marine fuel beyond methanol, because methanol globally, of course, everybody is using. But using ethanol as a marine fuel is something which is very encouraging a new area of opportunities for large, very large ethanol production capacity which India today has. And we still have enough opportunity to expand this capacity. So I think that's very heartening to know. But of course, he also very rightly so mentioned caution about making it viable. How do companies are prepared to absorb that cost, whether companies will have to pass on that cost. I'm sure not Air India, but a lot of airlines also pass on tea cost to the consumer. So I don't think. So anyway, I'm sure whatever we said and done, ultimately consumer pays the price. But therefore, as an ecosystem, we will also have to look at from the technology perspective, from the user perspective, from the policy framework, that while converting our transport to more cleaner and greener ways, we'll also have to make it economically viable. But I think this conversation has been very, very enlightening and very encouraging. But thanks to all of my panelists, they have stuck to their timelines, and therefore we have a very good opportunity of some conversation with our audience. So I think we have around 5-7 minutes, but I'll borrow another 5-7 minutes from the organizers, and we can have 10 minutes of Q&A, and so that we really have a good perspective and understanding about how things are happening. So anybody can raise their hand and start with your question. Only request, make a question, but be very specific and brief, because comments we can always do with our tea coffee together. So conversation we'll do on tea coffee. If you have questions for any of the panelists, be brief, and then we can take it forward.
Hello everyone. My question is for Mr. Ranjan. Yeah, it's going to be the same argument. I'm going to extend my question based on the conversation about financial stability for airlines. So most of the domestic carriers, they have been facing margin pressures, and they are very vulnerable to operational cost and volatile oil prices. So given their exposure to volatile oil prices, and airlines may view SAF as typically priced at a premium. So do you think that they're going to see this as an additional burden on their already existing high operation cost, because very few airlines, domestic ones, are profitable? So what mechanism and incentives could help higher SAF uptake to ensure that they are also financially afloat?
I agree with you. See, airlines has a not only internal, external factors also influence. If the dollar price goes, because all of the productions, all the purchase happen in the dollar price. Similarly, the fuel price. 40% of our overall expenditure is fuel. So due to the Gulf War, the fuel price is double. This is all dent on our balance sheet, because all of a sudden, every day you cannot increase the cost, because passenger, domestic passenger or international passenger, they're all cost sensitive. So those are the external factors which is not under control. What are in control is that make the better aircrafts, make the better services to the customer, make more fuel efficient design technology, and also the operation efficiency. And external factors, if this continue, then of course this is another burden for us. Like 1% SAP also 3x, the cost will going to up. And there is always the elasticity of the customer also. You cannot charge above that. So any incentive from the governments always helps, because we are the, if you look at the cost of the airlines tickets, if you look at the inflation price in the last 10 years, 15 years, the cost has not increased that much. So still, because to maintain the customer is important for us to serve the better customer, but external factors, of course, that's why I am asking him, if the cost technology have to introduce, so it is cost competitive, so people can afford it. If the cost is 3x and the government put mandate for the 10% SAF blending, it's tough for us, because where you can adjust the cost. 1%, 2% is okay. For pilot phase, we can do that. But it have to be more economical, because passengers are the same. If we increase more prices, they go to him on the railway. If he increase the price, they go to the bus. So the customer have to travel.
And with the highways becoming very efficient, 12 hours in Mumbai, that's a serious challenge. Thank you for, yeah, please sir.
सेशन इतना अच्छा हुआ तो मैं एक दो बात बताना चाहता हूँ. I think for all of us it is important. See, number one is the success story of ethanol has happened because of two reasons. Number one is the policy support. Number two is the mandating 20% addition, right? Now, in the case of SAF, first and foremost thing is India being surplus in ethanol, we should not hesitate in taking next step forward, and we should leapfrog rather than going step by step. For example, we have just seen that ESAF, the government has come out with a notification of mandating 1%. Why 1%? Why not go up? Because just now Mr. Bakshi, Engineer Bakshi has mentioned that ethanol to Lanzajet, whatever technology, ESAF, is the best option. Why don't we then ask IFGE, ask the government to come out with a policy that convert as much as possible to ESAF, not SAF even, ESAF. Now, if you say only 1%, so the ethanol producers will go for smaller plants, like they have a plant in USA, 30 KTA, which is nothing, peanuts. 30 KTA is nothing. We should think of something like 1 million tons of, SAF per annum, and which is possible only in India, the scale, because the cost will come down then. This is one point. Number two is, Government of India, Niti Aayog, made a policy called C1 economy. They made a policy called methanol economy. There is a paper, policy paper, in which Government of India, Niti Aayog has said that we must in India manufacture e-methanol. Plus, we must convert all our high ash coal into methanol. So somehow brown plus green methanol plus e-methanol, right? The whole thing boils down to one point, that is what is the cost of hydrogen. In e-ammonia, the percentage of hydrogen is about 18 to 19%. In e-methanol, it is exactly the same, okay? Now, e-ammonia tender is going at 49 rupees 75 paisa, the last price which the tender has gone by SECI. With the same scale, if you work out, e-methanol hydrogen cost comes down to less than $1.5 already in case of ammonia, okay? So when people are talking of $1 possible, not possible, it is happening. Instead of wasting our energy onto e-ammonia and then using it as a hydrogen source, we should manufacture e-methanol. Now, how do we manufacture? Lanzajet, we had a meeting with your CEO, Dr. Holmgren, and I told her that India produces 1 crore liter of ethanol every year. Equal amount of CO2 we are producing. And let us remember what is produced CO2. On paper we say we are capturing CO2, giving it to food and beverages, but actually we are letting it go to the atmosphere. That CO2 is not same as you are using the CO2 from NTPC. NTPC CO2 is only 15 to 20% from the flue gas, but this CO2 is 95% pure. 95% pure CO2, we are letting it go to the atmosphere. Capture it, have hydrogen, which is $1.5, make methanol, and let India be, and IFGE should flag this. Yesterday, I told Mantriji when he was making speech, I intervened, I said methanol. He mentioned methanol. Then while going, I told him, and today I have a meeting with him only for this purpose, that methanol should be our product. Let us not compare methanol with ethanol in energy and all that. Please understand, methanol is a leeway to reduce, to decarbonize the whole industry in a much better way. The last point. Everybody is talking about isobutanol. I am telling you today, in India and in the world, nobody will use isobutanol for blending it with diesel. For the simple reason, nobody will apply nobody will put break the head for putting so much of cost to produce IBA. The biggest company which developed the technology for making IBA is in Minneapolis. They have shut down their plant because it's not viable. In the same amount of money, energy, and time, you can produce much more ethanol than you produce IBA. So what you should do? We should look for molecule like diethyl ether. Okay, you have surplus ethanol. On the one hand, you convert ethanol into SAF. On the other, you create diethyl ether. Diethyl ether is a much better molecule to be blended with diesel, any amount of content. It is much better. Third molecule, again, is the derivative of ethanol, that is glycol ether. And there are companies in India which are manufacturing glycol ether. So I think these are the 3 points I just wanted to mention.
Excellent.
We
Thank
should
you.
have them. We should have them. The IFGE should take that, because in India.
No, I agree. I
policy-
completely agree, sir.
Sir,
Thank you
last
for
point
your
मैं वाणी को
suggestions.
विराम देने से
Yeah.
पहले मैं एक बात बता दूं। इंडिया में सबसे बड़ी समस्या ये है कि जो नीति आयोग में नीति निर्धारक हैं, उनको सपोर्ट फाइनेंस वाले कर रहे हैं. ओके, प्रश्न पूछे जाते हैं वाइबल है नहीं है, टेक्नोलॉजी वाले सपोर्ट नहीं कर रहे हैं. चाहे वो नीति आयोग हो, चाहे वो मंत्रालय हो, जो जिनको टेक्नोलॉजी का पता है वो नहीं एडवाइस कर रहे हैं. एडवाइस वो कर रहे हैं जो फाइनेंस में MBA करके आ रहे हैं. बस यही मेरा कहना था.
Thank you, thank you. But very good perspective on the various initiatives or various opportunities that we need to look at. I think we have just run out of the time, but thank you all my panelists here, Mr. Ajay Jha, Mr. Nilay Ranjan, Mr. Vineet Bakshi, Mr. Anil Dixit, Mr. Brajnandan Das. Thank you for your valuable insights and sharing your experiences on how do we look at various transport options, opportunities to make it more cleaner and greener, whether it is civil aviation, whether it is railways, transport, right from the technology to the end user's perspective, like our bus operators. We had tried to cover the entire spectrum, and I think with the comments from our experts in the audience, this has been really, really very engaging conversation. Thank you so much. I hand over the mic to the organizers. Thank you.
Thank you, the eminent panelists for sharing your insightful views. I request Mr. Vaibhav Dange to hand over the planters to our panelists. Please hand over to Mr. Ajay Jha. Mr. Ranjan. Mr. Dixit. To Mr. Brajnandan Singh. To Mr. Vineet Bakshi. Thank you all of you. We have a small tea break for the session for 15-20 minutes and request you to kindly join back at after 20 minutes. For a group photograph, please.
Yeah, there's some.